Okay, welcome everybody. My name is Michael Santiago, and this is another episode of Gamers University podcast. I am joined together with two doctors, Trevor Janus and Stephanie Fuqui. Welcome, guys.
Thanks for having us.
All right. So tell me, I already spoiled it. I said two doctors, so we're already halfway there. So what do you guys do for a living? Tell the beautiful people out there.
So I'm a pediatric resident in New York City, and I'm in my second year of residency training.
Okay,
I'm
and Trevor.
also a resident, but emergency medicine, also in second year of training. So spend most of my time in the emergency department, but rotate around other areas of the hospital as well.
Oh, awesome, awesome. Did you guys meet in medical school, or how did that happen?
We did. We met in cadaver lab, actually.
Oh, nice, nice. And where exactly is that?
We went to medical school in Colorado.
Colorado. Okay, okay.
Together.
And then for people who don't know, cadaver lab is where you get a body and you dissect it in
Aye.
So it's,
Yes,
it's
yes.
a weird place to meet, I guess.
Oh, okay. So you guys are doing that in your like medical class, and was it like a real body, or how does that work?
Yeah, so we were kind of in groups, but they have donors who, while they're living, decide that they want to donate their body to science after they die. So we had the honor of having these donor bodies to learn our anatomy from. So real bodies.
Wow, that's incredible. Oh my goodness. So what intrigued you guys? Did you guys always like, for both of you, did you guys always like science and medicine and always wanted to be doctors growing up?
Yeah, I pretty much always, since I don't know, maybe middle school or high school, I was always interested in science and was interested in becoming a doctor. And so that was kind of always my trajectory that I was kind of working towards growing up and in college.
I took a more circuitous route. I went to school for music, actually, and
oh wow,
to try to make it, and it turns out I wasn't very talented.
Don't say that. Don't
no,
don't you dare. Don't you
right.
dare.
But I became a chef because I had to pay the bills somehow.
Whoa! Whoa! That's amazing. Well, hold on now. So you start off in music. I don't want to miss all this great stuff. So you've seen a lot of different things, different career paths ahead of you. So you went to school initially to become a doctor, or how did it work?
I went to school to become a musician.
A musician, okay.
Yeah.
What exactly? An instrument or?
Oh
singer?
Yeah, I'm actually on the trumpet.
The trumpet.
Things. Yeah, which is not something that anybody wants to listen to. After you leave the bar, come back to my apartment. I'll play some trumpet for you.
Yeah,
you
didn't entice Stephanie in the beginning, like
no. I don't think I've ever played trumpet for Stephanie.
Yeah, I don't know that you have.
Yeah.
Oh, you can still play though, right?
No, not really.
Really?
I don't even have one, man. If you're to hear me today, you'd be like, that man's never touched the trumpet.
Never touched a trumpet in his life.
Yeah.
Oh wow. Okay, so you grew up playing instruments? Is that how it went?
Not really. I decided to go to college and study music kind of on a whim. Which was another silly thing to do because everybody in music school with me, they'd be like, I've been playing since I was 4 years old, and I know the bread right. backwards, and I'm like, oh, I'm learning what a treble clef is.
Yeah.
So yeah, I don't know. It was an interesting thing to do, but it was the ultimately the wrong career path for me.
Right. When you were in college, was that like your favorite class, like your favorite course, music, or is it just something you just try to do?
So in college, since I was a music major, basically all my classes were music related somehow. You do music theory, music history. You have to be in different ensembles. I was in various wind ensembles, jazz bands, things like that. I think my favorite was probably like just I was part of the small brass choir that was probably my favorite class, but I don't know. It's forever ago. It was like a different life. You know?
Yeah, tell me about it because we're gonna get there. So okay, so you found music wasn't for you, right? So what was the next? What was the next thing? Was there something in between medicine? Something else?
Restaurant.
Ah, yes, the chef.
Yeah. Yeah, I cooked for a long time. I cooked while I was a musician too, because I never made any money as a musician.
Okay.
You got to pay the bills somehow. And so I was developing this other more marketable skill while I was learning music. And I cooked for years, like 10 years or something like that. Worked in restaurants in Colorado and LA. I was even a contestant on a Fox reality cooking show.
Really?
Yeah.
What was it called?
Master Chef.
Wow. So you in one of like the episodes?
Yeah, you can tune in one episode just to see me get kicked off, basically.
No, but I'm sure you take it well. You know, you do the whole.
I did, but the way they edited it didn't look like I did.
Oh no. They didn't make you the bad guy, did they?
No, I didn't have enough screen time for me to be a bad guy.
Stephanie, does he cook for you?
He cooks for me all the time. It's one of the highlights of being married to him.
Wow.
All the time we have delicious food.
Well, what about do you cook as well?
I never cooked. I have never had good skills in the kitchen, but when we started dating and since we've gotten married, he has taught me a lot about cooking. So we'll cook together now, and I've improved a lot from when we first met.
But, I think you're pretty good.
But
really good.
Obviously, he's still the true chef in the family.
That's an incredible skill to have, like to be able to cook. You know, like my wife does most of the cooking. I can cook, but I'm no chef. You know, I get by. My wife is more of like the cook in the house, right? So how did you get into medicine, Trevor? I'm very curious because Stephanie's route was very like, you know, she seemed to have liked science growing up and maybe thought like, hey, I think I want to be a doctor, you know, and at some point, and you were you wanted to be a musician. You were doing a chef, you know, to pay the bills. So you've seen a lot of different things. How did you end up in medicine?
Yeah, Stephanie was definitely smarter. She knew what to do. There was actually a great tragedy in my family. My brother died, and it kind of shook me up. And oh, thank you. But made me want to seek out something more purposeful, I guess. And so I dropped everything and decided to go back to school to learn some science because I knew no science at the time. Go ahead.
No, I was gonna ask, like, was this something like when your brother passed away? Was it something medical, and you felt like maybe there was something you could do, like to help others? Like, what brought you to that realization of wanting to like help others? Like,
yeah, I think you pretty much hit it on the head there. So he had a very rare disease. Dog.
Oh, don't worry about dog.
He had a very rare disease that like I think they just barely touched on in medical school. Like it's super rare.
Really?
So I grew up kind of in a medical kind of environment with him. And so I, assumed a lot of the caretaking responsibilities growing up. And it just seemed like a natural pivot.
Really? Okay. Wow. So when you decided to go to medical school, like how did you go about the process of that? Like applying to anything that would accept you, or you wanted to go somewhere specific, or how did that work?
Yeah. So getting into medical school is crazy hard. It's more and more every year. It's I think our school got something like 9,000 applications for like 150 spots.
Wow.
So you have to take prereq classes. You have to do 2 years biology, 2 years chemistry, organic chemistry. What else do you need? Physics.
Yeah.
And then you have to take the entrance exam, the MCAT, which is where a lot of med school hopefuls kind of crash and burn. And I went back and did 2 years of like post-bac college. I studied crazy hard for the test, and somehow miraculously, I'm not a very good test taker, but miraculously the test went really well. It's the only good test I've ever had in medicine, but it was enough to get me into school. So
the one that mattered, right?
Yeah.
What about you, Stephanie? Did you find it difficult, the whole process?
Yeah, I think it's definitely like Trevor was mentioning, it's a very slim chance of getting into medical school. So I think we were both very lucky to get accepted and to be able to ultimately go to medical school. One of the things that's especially challenging is if you're somebody who doesn't necessarily have like other physicians in the family or know a lot of people who have gone through the process, there's different kind of insider secrets that you might not necessarily know. Like one of the things that's also required in addition to like the MCAT and having a good GPA is you have to have so many hours of experience of like shadowing or experience like in a hospital or in a healthcare setting. And so for people like neither of us have physicians in their family, so it's it can be trickier to like get those hours in, which is like another requirement for getting into medical school. And so for me, it was just a lot of kind of relying on advisors in college and things like that to try to help me through the process. But yeah, it's definitely a process.
Wow. So Trevor, what would you say was like the hardest part of like medical school?
Being dumber than everybody else. You know, like I'm 10 years older than everybody, or I was. And they all had like these young, fresh minds, and you know, they had like, a lot of our classmates had like masters and doctorates in like anatomy and biochemistry and all this kind of stuff. And I had just taken a year of biology, and I was trying to stand toe to toe with them, and it was just I felt like I was playing catch up my first 2 years of medical school. The first 2 years of medical school, you're just in the classroom pretty much.
Right.
And then starting third year, that's when they put you out into the hospital setting, the clinic setting, and you start to actually interface with patients. And once I got to that part of med school, things like got a lot easier, a lot better. But when I was just hitting the books, you know, 80, 90, 100 hours a week, that was not a fun time for me.
Oh, that's rough, man.
Yeah.
But you guys both made it, you know, spoiler alert, you guys are doctors. So after medical school, you guys have to do residency program, right? Can you just tell the audience a little bit about that?
Yeah, so the residency program is there's all different specialties. So like Trevor's in a residency program specifically to learn primarily emergency medicine, but you have to be a little bit well-rounded and know a little bit of all the different areas. And I'm in a program specifically for pediatrics. And so there's different durations that residencies last depending on what specialty you're in. So Trevor's program is 4 years, mine is 5 years.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, and I'm actually I'm in the pediatrics portion of my training, but I'm in a combined residency for pediatric neurology. So I'm ultimately doing a couple of years of pediatrics and 3 years of more neurology training.
So neurology for both adults and peds, or
primarily for pediatrics, but we do training with adults as well. So mine is a little bit more niche, but yeah, everybody who graduates medical school and wants to ultimately practice medicine, you all participate in this big process called the match, where you apply to different residency programs, and then there's all these algorithms that go over my head, but everybody tries to get matched with a residency program, and you kind of apply broadly for the best chances, and then end up wherever you match. And you can put in your preferences for like a rank list of where you'd like to end up, kind of top choice to bottom choice, but ultimately it's wherever you're matched is where you end up doing your residency training.
Really? So it's not like you graduate medical school and say like, oh, I want to be an ER doctor, or oh, I want to be a pediatric neuro doctor. They like choose, not they kind of like choose for you, or how does that work?
You choose the field, but you might not necessarily choose the hospital that you end up at or the program. And some people they'll dual apply. I had a lot of friends who wanted to get into emergency medicine, but it was very competitive, so they dual applied to emergency medicine and internal medicine, which is just there's so many more spots for internal medicine. And I think everybody who I knew who did that ended up matching into internal medicine and not into the.
Really? How do you get that little extra bump so that you end up in the ER if you want to?
It's, I don't know. What do you?
Yeah, I mean, it's also similar to med school. It's like dependent on kind of your grades and things like that during medical school, and your test scores from med school. But it's also like you do interviews with the different residency programs, and they kind of rank their choices for who they want.
So it's kind of like you have to have all the good scores and no major marks against you. You have to demonstrate that you're not somebody who is going to fail or not pass a test at some point or something. But then you have the best scores in the world, but if you're not personable, if you're not nice, then that's there's a very human element to it too, because we spent 2 years on the wards collecting I guess like softer data, not like test scores and stuff, but like people have been observing us interfacing with patients, patients' families, and other other members of the hospital team. And so you have to be kind of a well-rounded candidate and not a jerk, I guess, and you'll do fine.
Right. So, oh, that's awesome. So when you become residents, what is that experience like? Stephanie, what is it like working in with pediatrics?
Yeah, so it's definitely, I think it's a big step up from medical school. Medical school is challenging when you're in your clinical years, because you're trying to learn and perform well and be an asset to the team. But as a student, there's lots of limitations in kind of how helpful you can actually be in taking care of patients. And as a resident, you are functioning as a doctor and kind of being a primary caregiver for the patients in the hospital or clinic, wherever you are. And so it's very rewarding to feel like you are actually like finally at the point where you're being a doctor and taking care of patients. And for me, I love pediatrics. So I love seeing kids from all ages, from newborn babies to teenagers. And I feel like it's very rewarding to take care of those patients. And as a resident, it's definitely a busy schedule, and we have some demanding hours, and sometimes we're rotating in settings that are maybe not our favorite places where we ultimately want to end up and be spending most of our time working. But I think it's definitely a more rewarding setting than being in medical school, where you're just still trying to get to the point of being a doctor. And now that we're in residency, it's demanding, but I think we're getting to do what we really enjoy doing.
So what was it like working like during the pandemic for you in pediatrics? Because I know the call volume was like it took a hit because a lot of parents kept their children at home. What was that like for you?
Yeah, it's definitely been kind of a strange experience. Some of the residents in my program were kind of redistributed to take care of like adult COVID patients, which is totally out of our wheelhouse, dealing with not only COVID, which is a new disease that we're still learning a lot about, but for us as pediatric residents, taking care of adult patients was a big change as well, and something that I think everybody was a lot less comfortable with. And then, as you had mentioned, there was a big decrease in the volume of kids coming in, not only to the hospital if they were sick. You know, parents were more worried about going into the hospital, and so we had lots of kids who stayed home, you know, and then for just regular checkup kind of things, lots of kids who are, you know, behind on their regular vaccines and things like that, who haven't had their regular checkups just because of all the changes from the pandemic. So yeah, it definitely has shifted a lot, and there have been times when our pediatric hospital floors have been closed because there just have not been the same number of patients, and it's been very strange, and not something I ever would have expected going into medical school.
Man,
that's be dealing with.
Yeah, that's incredible. What about you, Trevor? What has your experience been like with the pandemic? Well, before you begin, what in 2020, what year were you as a resident? First year, second year?
We graduated in 2020, so I was a first year.
First year resident?
Yeah.
During the pandemic? Wow.
My experience with COVID is probably too dark for a video game podcast. Sorry.
Oh, what the?
Sorry, it's our dog.
I didn't know there's gonna be 3 people. I can't handle 3.
Go on.
2 I can handle. I can't handle 3 guests. No, okay. So without two so how did it feel? Like what without being too like specific with like the calls and the cases and stuff like that. A first year being a resident during the pandemic, that's incredible. Like
yeah, it felt like
how did you feel going through that?
Yeah, it definitely felt like it was rewarding at first to be like, you know, get me in the fight. You know, I'm trained. I went through medical school. I can help. And we helped a lot of people. It was just what brought us down is so many people did so poorly because it's a novel disease. We don't know very much about it. We were just learning. We're still learning how best to manage these patients. And so it was hard my first year to deal with so many people who did so badly. Just across, you know, that's how it was across the nation. But especially here in New York, we got hit kind of hardest and earliest.
Yeah, for sure. You stayed with it. You stayed true with it. So you know, I just want to say, you know, thank you so much for staying strong and going through that. It was a tough time, and I can't believe it was your first year as a resident in 2020. It's unbelievable.
Yeah, because I'll be hired later on down the road.
Like, yeah.
President, I was. You know.
Yeah, at a bar, you know.
Yeah.
Pass me whiskey. I'll tell you some stories. Yeah. I actually started March 16th, 2020 as a nurse. So two days after the city shut down was my first day. But
wow, man, I didn't know that.
Yeah. But I was a paramedic before then. So it wasn't like I had a lot of experience in medicine beforehand. So it wasn't as like disheartening, or I didn't take it as hard. But man, was the pandemic like a wild time, the 2020. You know, being a first year resident, you learned, I'm sure you learned so much so fast, right? It's hard to say now because you're only a first year resident once in your life. So you know, like I could only imagine you've gotten so much experience in your first year versus other doctors, even the attendings that supervise you, their first year as a resident, you probably had 10 times the experience. It's incredible. You ever think about that, like going through your time?
Yeah, I think we So, we talked about the match process, and you don't always have control of where you end up, but Lincoln, where I work, was actually my favorite place that I interviewed, and
nice.
Likewise to Stephanie Cornell. So we actually effectively got our number one choice, and the reason I wanted to go to Lincoln was super high volume, high acuity, see as many patients as possible, and kind of low resource too. You have to be resourceful. So I think even without the pandemic happening, our residency just is set up to you put in the reps no matter what.
Right. Do you ever regret it some days, like with the call volume and just?
Yeah, man.
Right. Because I was like, wow, you sure? Every day is roses for you. I'm sure that's not the case. I'm sure there's some days where you're like, oh man, this is too much. You ever feel overwhelmed working at Lincoln Hospital?
Overwhelmed, no. Burnt out.
Burnt out.
Yeah. If I'm doing actually pretty much every couple of weeks when I've got like a ton of shifts in a row and just working in that environment, I'll get burnt out. I'll need a couple of days to kind of come back up for air. I'm sure. I mean, you work in the same environment.
Yeah, for sure.
You miss riding the truck?
Sometimes more the coworkers than the the carrying. Like it's hard to say you miss carrying somebody 6 flights of steps down.
Yeah.
Because the elevator's broken or
we're doing CPR in a bathtub or something.
Yeah, or just
hard.
Oh God, or just running a code by yourself in a dark living room and it's a family screaming at you. So I mean, there's some things that are like, okay, I'm glad I'm not doing that. But there's a lot of like good stuff in EMS. That acute like care, like helping somebody life-threatening situations right then and there. That and then saving, reversing. Like one of my favorite calls was always asthma. Really bad asthma. You get there, they can't even talk. They're just leaning over, and you just hit them with the epi, and you hit them with the mag, and the steroids and treatments and stuff. And then by the time you get to the hospital, they're talking and they're this and that, and those are always like great. I always felt great. I do like working as a nurse. It's pretty cool. The volume sometimes is a little much. The nurse to patient ratio is a little crazy sometimes.
Yeah.
But it's great. Working in medicine has been great so far. I've been doing it since like 2010, I think, and it's very rewarding. I mean, your job is you're getting paid to help people. I mean, it's like it's awesome. You know what I mean?
Yeah, and thank you for all your help with you worked through the pandemic and everything. So.
Oh, thanks for sure. Awesome. Good. Thank you so much, guys. Let's get into the second part of the podcast, which is games. Which is why Trevor can't get too detailed about the pandemic because it's a gaming podcast, right? So I want to talk about a special game Trevor brought up to me. Him and his wife play. I find it fantastic because I've always wanted to get into this game, and I just never had anybody to play with, or I just didn't have enough time. But what's the game that you guys play together?
It's called Divinity Original Sin 2, and we're in the middle of our second playthrough together.
Really? Wow. So you played it, beat it already, so you're doing it again?
Yeah.
Coming back for more, man.
Wow. Okay, so that's awesome. So for people who don't know, I don't know too much of the story. I've played it, but only like the very beginning. So what is Divinity Original Sin 2 about?
So it's kind of a high fantasy role-playing game that takes place in a world where magic exists. It's a known entity, but every time it's used, there's you run the risk of attracting these horrible monsters. They're attracted to the magic. And so it's a society where it's illegal to be a magic user, a sorcerer. and they're castigated, and they're sent away to an island prison, which is where the game starts.
Oh man.
And you're kind of tamped down. They keep you from using your powers, and you're trying to not only develop, get your rightful power back, but also kind of right this wrong that's existing in the world itself.
Mm-hmm. Now, I've heard. Tell me if I'm wrong, but there's a lot of Dungeons and Dragons type feel to it in terms of the role playing. Well, do you know exactly what they mean? Have you guys ever played Dungeons and Dragons?
I never played Dungeons and Dragons growing up. Which is odd because I was a super nerd growing up. But I just for one reason or another, I never got into it, and it's kind of making a comeback now. From like adults our age are like starting to play it for the first time. I still haven't tried it, but it follows these basically sets of rules as far as like character progression goes, and interacting with the world that Dungeons and Dragons kind of, I guess, invented. And I think about, like, I always played RPGs growing up, and for a long time they were like the nerdy gamers game.
Yeah.
And now pretty much every game has some RPG elements, some character growth, progression kind of elements, and they all of that stems back and probably be traced back to the Dungeons and Dragons like rule sets. But this game is like a raw version of those.
So you get to pick a character, right? What kind of characters did you guys go with?
So the options that you have at the beginning of the game, you can either play like a pre-made character who kind of has a name and like their own storyline through the game, or you can like invent your own character and just be like a human or an elf or a dwarf or something, that you kind of make up your character on your own. So the first time we played it through, we each were like a predefined character and kind of like followed their storylines. And so like there's certain like interactions or different things that are specific to those characters that like they get into a fight because they have a history with this other character or something. And then this time that we're playing it through, we made up our own characters, and so it's kind of a little bit different experience. But right now I think I'm a human like warrior and you're an elf. What are you?
I'm a mage.
You're a mage.
But I just get killed very easily.
Where's the warrior to back up the mage?
She's always, she's busy. But yeah, one cool thing about this game is, like a lot of RPGs, it's a 4-party, 4 people are in your party pretty much at all times. And so what Steph and I do, because this game offers couch co-op, meaning we can both play with a split screen.
Okay.
Is she takes 2 characters and I take 2 characters, and we develop the characters to have skills and abilities that complement one another. And if we weren't to do that, I don't think we'd even be able to get through the game. It's a really tough game, so we have to be very strategic about how we handle our characters.
So what exactly do you mean? Like one person is a mage like yourself, one person is a defensive type, or one's a thief? What exactly do you mean?
Yeah.
Party?
So the kind of the name of the game when you're in a fight, which is battling a very big portion of the game, probably I'd say about half of the game, is trying to take away, it's turn-based, so like I'm gonna go and then this bad guy's gonna go and then Stephanie's got a turn.
Okay.
And the goal always is it's to defeat them, but the only way to do that effectively, we found, is to keep the bad guys from having a turn. And so there are different ways to do that and different strategies. We can you can, if you shock somebody, or if you knock them down, then they'll lose their turn. But you have to set them up for that. You can't just do that in one turn. So like I'll do one thing to like get his armor down, so that then Stephanie can knock him over, so that he doesn't get a turn. So that we're it's kind of like a chess game. We're planning like 3-4 moves, sometimes more, in advance.
Wow.
To try to.
And is it like is it paused while you're doing this, or is it happening real time and you have to think really fast?
No, it's not real time. Thank goodness.
Oh, okay.
We wouldn't be able to.
Okay. So it is like chess, where it's just you wait to make your move, you think about it, and you come together and make a plan. So you get to use the environment as well. Is that
big time? I would say you have to use the environment. Things as easy as like, and as obvious as like an archer will do more damage up high than down low. Right. But also like, you know, I said that you can stun enemies with electricity. If you could have another character do like a rain spell or a water spell, so they're all standing in water, and then zap the water, you could get multiple guys at once.
Wow.
Yeah, it's cool.
That's pretty cool.
You know, I don't know how popular the game is. I don't know how widely played it is, but I know it's a major critical success.
Yeah, for sure. It's critically acclaimed. There's a huge fan base. Like it's a cult like classic. The company is actually taking over Baldur's Gate. Yeah, so they're doing the new one. Are you guys gonna play that, or are you guys sticking to Divinity?
Well, we'll play Baldur's Gate as soon as it comes out on the PlayStation.
Oh, okay, because it's for PC at first.
Yeah. We're console gamers.
Right.
Don't judge us.
Oh. Yeah, so that, are you guys looking forward to that, or?
Absolutely, yeah. So much so that, you know, we're replaying a game we've already played.
Nice. Have you guys played the original, like the first one?
Yeah, although Stephanie has no memory of it.
Yeah.
Oh, wow.
Together, I don't remember it. Maybe I would if we started playing it again.
You would
trigger some memories, but definitely the original Sin 2 is the one that I have very vivid memories of playing the first time.
Yeah, and the first one's very, very good. It's another great game. It's just, but the second one is just so polished and so far and away better. I would recommend anybody who's interested in it. I would recommend starting with the second one. And they're two, like, they exist in the same world. They're two totally different storylines. So it's not like you're going to be lost. I mean, you'll be lost because it's complicated, but not because you don't know enough.
Right. Okay. Is this something where like you have to play with people, or is this that where you can play by yourself if you like, or do you recommend playing with others?
So, I absolutely recommend playing with others. I think it adds another layer to the game, but I think it was actually designed originally as a one-player experience. But Larian Studios, the developer, they have a really intimate relationship with their fans. They make a lot of their games via Kickstarter, and they take a lot of like fan feedback very seriously. And one thing they learned with one of their earlier games is that the fans of their games like to play couch co-op, and so they made it an integral kind of centerpiece of the experience. You can also play online co-op too. It's not something that we've ever done because I don't have any other friends with PlayStation.
Right, but that's cool. That's awesome. So I mean, I'm hyped. I definitely want to give it a go. Try the game out. Thank you guys so much for sharing and explaining your that beautiful game and your love for it. It's awesome.
Yeah, man. Thank you so much for having us. This is fun.
Yeah, this was great. Thank you so much for the stories and teaching us all about becoming doctors and your journeys. It was really fascinating stuff. Thank you so much.
Yeah, thank you.
And nice meeting you, Stephanie. Thank you so much for coming and joining me. And Trevor, thank you so much.
All right, man.
Awesome. So I'll talk to you guys later. Take care. And thank you everyone out there for listening to the podcast or watching it at home on YouTube. With that said, stay true to yourself and embrace your inner gamer. Peace.